I think we ought to get started. If I don't start, Michelle Ariano will never get up here, and so if I start, she has to come. I am Ken Gudger, president of Aura, and Michelle Ariano is our executive director, and we welcome everybody to the new shelter season. Yay! I might say a word about who Aura is. I think most of you know, but we have three major functions in Ashland and Talent. We have the laundry shower trailer, which is right here every Tuesday afternoon. We have the resource center next to Safeway, and we partner with all of you community volunteers on the Ashland Winter Shelter Program. So it's a full menu, and we're so pleased to be able to start the new Winter Shelter Program. And maybe, Michelle, do you want to talk a little bit about the Winter Shelter history?
You're going to do the history. I'm just going to talk about the mission.
Oh. She told me I was going to do the history. She's going to do the mission. You can see we're well organized here. So the Winter Shelter Program dates back 12 years with two ladies from the Presbyterian Church. You know, before I go down this path, let me just recognize the Aura board members who are here tonight, who donate so much of their time to keeping this organization running. We have Pastor Dan Fowler from the Methodist Church, who's on our board. Pastor Dan. What'd I say? Methodist? Presbyterian Church. Presbyterian Church. We also have Monty Mail. I saw Monty here. Where's Monty? She was here. And who else am I missing who I saw? Jackie Bachman is here, and you'll be hearing from Jackie later. Then we have a couple of retired board members as well. We have Carolyn Anderson, and we have Sharon Harris. John Washorik is a board member, and he's here tonight. And Regina Ayers is a board member, retired. So we're well represented. So with those introductions, I hope I didn't leave anybody out. With those introductions, let me just say a word about the history of the Winter Shelter Program, which probably all of you know very well. But it started in 2012 with a couple of ladies at the Presbyterian Church who offered shelter for very cold nights. And over many years, by 2017, it had gotten up to 5 nights. Or was it 4 nights or 5 nights in 2017? I think it was 5 nights in 2017. And then by 2018, Aura was so privileged to join with all the volunteers, and we were able to offer 7 nights of shelter last year for the first time ever. And yes, it deserves a round of applause. And it deserves a round of applause because we did it in 4 different churches. This church was right here, was Tuesday night. The Presbyterians were Friday, Saturday, Sunday. The Trinity Episcopal was Monday and Wednesday, and John's Unitarians were Thursday. We made it work, but it was extremely difficult and trying. But it worked, and it worked well. We had a case manager. Most of you know Crystal, and we were able to get 19 of our guests housed last year. Yes. In addition, we had 33 other guests who filled out all the applications for low-income subsidized housing. So if they stay with us, if they keep coming to the Resource Center, eventually we'll get more results from last year. And I think we did some other things, like got over 40 people healthcare, Oregon Health Plan. So it was a good year. You guys did an outstanding job. And now we're going to start again. So that's the winter shelter.
So one of the things that I wanted to say just briefly, and I get the privilege of talking about the mission of the organization and the heart, which is my favorite part, and why we're all involved. So Aura, really to encompass what Aura is all about, is to take people and help them move from crisis to stability. And so with the Community Resource Center and the laundry shower trailer and now the winter shelter, it really provides us a way to help people move from that crisis to stability. One of the beautiful things, too, about the mission and having the heart and the impact is all the incredible volunteers that are involved at the Resource Center, the Laundry Shower Trailer. And what I really want to highlight tonight is the shelter, because some of these volunteers have been volunteering for, 9 years, 8 years, 7 years, overnight hosts, one night a week, every week for 3 months. Some of them live and breathe it and work on the roof. And it is above and beyond anything I've ever seen. And the numbers are above and beyond anything I've ever seen. This is not that big of a community. And to see this kind of outreach and so many people dedicated to making a difference in the lives of those that really have a big impact, in the lives of those that could really use a hand up, is just outstanding. And so for me coming in, I'm new to the area, I'm new to Aura, but I'm not new to nonprofit, and I'm not new to impactful mission work. And what I see here just blows me away. And I want to take this opportunity to thank you all, because you're making an incredible difference. And what makes this shelter so special is the combination of working with the case management and the navigation and having it in one location. But the secret sauce is the volunteers. And so thank you very much. And I'm going to turn it back over to Ken. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Michelle. And to get started tonight, I get the distinct pleasure of introducing our first keynote speaker, Jeff Golden, Senator Golden. And Jeff, we pulled your bio off of the website, and I learned some things about you that I didn't know. Jeff is a graduate of Harvard University, and he hardly had graduated when he came to Oregon, got a chainsaw, and went out into the forest. And that resulted in his first book. He's written now 3 books, and I'm not sure about this because I'll admit I haven't read them yet. I'm going to get them, but I haven't read them yet. But it seems to be the theme is timber and forestry and that sort of thing. And on his second book, I find it interesting in his bio that it says that he wrote a book called Forest Blood in 1998, and it was a preeminent novel of the Northwest timber industry. And his stand in the book was responsible for, his stand for responsible forest practices made him the target of an unsuccessful recall campaign financed by the National Timber Corporations. And it earned him the first ever nomination from the state of Oregon for the JFK Profiles in Courage Award. Congratulations. I think most of us know Jeff from his time at NPR with Immense Possibilities. That show is now across 25 different NPR stations in the United States. And last year, Jeff became our state senator in November of 2018. And so, Jeff, it is a pleasure to have you come and kick off our winter shelter program. Senator Jeff Golden, thank you.
Well, it is a complete pleasure and honor to be here with you tonight. I'm just so proud of my community. This feels like an historic moment in what has been a long project. I look out in the room and see quite a few friends who for years and years and years have been dedicated to the proposition that the most vulnerable segment of our community will not be subject to constant exposure to the roughest elements of living out in the world, and who have lived that commitment out with uncounted hours of compassionate work for the community. It's I never take it for granted. It's one of the great treasures of living here. I brag about coming from this community all the time and about what happens here. And I'm especially struck by how, what a backbone, just a steady engine of all this the interfaith community in Ashland has been. And I think that's a rich legacy that we need not to take for granted. And usually when you say community of faith, faith community, most generally it's understood to mean people who belong to some kind of formal denomination or congregation, Christian or otherwise. And I'm meaning it a little more broadly. I mean people of faith, a community of faith, people of faith who have the faith that we are all ultimately connected and that your well-being is connected to that of everyone else in the community, and have that faith not as some abstract philosophy, but in a way that guides your lives. And without that, I don't think Aura could exist in this community. And it's inspiring, it is humbling, and it gives me more hope for where we're headed as a state, country, and right now as a state, than most anything else going on right now. And you know, I have a job now as a policymaker, and there are a lot of resources that the legislature has to deliberate and create new policy, new laws, new rules. But by itself, I think we've discovered that is not going to get us where we want to go. That's separated from the devotion of people in Oregon to build their communities, to make their communities better. Won't take us very far. It takes us to dead ends. It's not sufficient to the challenges we have ahead of us. I remember a quote that just came to me from former Governor Tom McCall. Who's lived in Oregon long enough to have been here when Tom McCall was governor? Quite a few. And he said, this won't be exactly right, but it's close. He said, heroes are not statues set against a red sky. They are people who say, this is my community and it is mine to make it better. So we're talking about an heroic venture here that has had plenty, all that it needs in the way of the commitment and compassion of the members of its community, but up till now, not what it's needed in a stable facility that you can rely on. And it's so exciting that that missing piece is here now. So with that, I hope to see you at the new shelter a couple of these nights coming up. I'm more grateful than I can say for all of the work and dedication and vision that's brought us to this point. Our best days are ahead of us in Ashland in that regard. And I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for doing what you can do.
Thank you, Senator Golden. We greatly appreciate you taking the time to be with us tonight, and we look forward to seeing you at the shelter this winter season. Thank you for all you do. Now I have the distinct honor of introducing somebody that I think very highly of, that is a true leader in the county and in the community. And without the support of this organization, I don't know that I'd be up here today speaking. Pam Knorr, who cares deeply about the community and has 30 years of nonprofit experience. She wouldn't give me a long bio. That's about it. It shows what an amazing person she is and how she really cares about supporting the most vulnerable in the community. And Access truly does that. Access is a community action agency for Jackson County, serving over 54,000 people each year with food, warmth, and shelter, and partnering to support agencies throughout the region. And so it was through pass-through dollars through Access that brought Aura to the table last year. And the impact of bringing Aura to the table helps tremendously when it's helping our guests move from crisis to stability and those wraparound services. And so thanks to Access and really helping us take this shelter to the next level. So please welcome the Executive Director of Access, Pam Knorr.
Hi, thank you very much for allowing me just a few minutes to say thank you to you. The Ashland community has really truly wrapped their arms around this project and made it a labor of love, an opportunity to support your community, but most importantly, something that works in a way that it doesn't work in other areas. So I want to applaud you. You have a model and a sense of, as Senator said, building community that makes a significant difference. Access, as your community action agency for the whole county, is really proud to be a part of that. It's a small part, but we're here not only in financial support, but also in emotional support and support to Michelle and the board in what we can do to help make things easier and hopefully leverage more dollars in the future. That is my significant goal, is to leverage as much money as I can for this community in helping get people off of the street. Because we know that offering shelter is the first step to home. And that's where we, as a community action agency, want to see the community. It doesn't happen without you, and so I echo what everybody has said. Thank you very much for your kindness and your sense of help to those in need. So thank you very much. I also want to applaud Michelle. That shelter's amazing, and it's going to be a game changer for you. So thank you for everything, and call me if I can do anything to support you. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Pam. I appreciate you and everything that you do, and Access does. So, you know, sometimes thinking about serving those most in need, and it's hard to relate when you're talking numbers, 40, 50, 60, 100 people. And so I want to talk a little bit about the mission tonight and making a difference in somebody's life. And I want to talk about one person that really is given a lot of energy to the staff and the board, and the sense of being able to work with him to move from crisis to stability. This gentleman, we'll call him Charles, entered the shelter chronically homeless, hard of hearing, health issues, mental health issues, and for the first time in the shelter, having one bed for the entire season really helped him start to stabilize. Our case manager, Crystal, our navigator, which we like to call, because she helps them navigate through the system to move to stability, worked with him continuously from the time that the shelter was open till all the way up to a few months ago. And it was step by step. You know, it was doctor's appointments and getting his ID and Social Security and OHP, getting him health benefits, and really working to track everything to help him move into assisted living, which was really an area that he needed. And there were times that they had interviews and he was close to getting in, and then he would just kind of say something really crazy off the wall because he just wanted to. And they were like, yeah, we're not sure this is the right place for him. And, you know, Crystal stayed with him every step of the way and continued to work with him. And eventually, and this was actually only about 2 months ago, she found him housing. And, you know, what's so incredibly powerful is when he went to tour the assisted living, he was like, and this is my own bed, and this is my own room, and this is the TV room, and he was fully ready to embrace having a shelter and having permanent living, having something over his head every night, having a bed to go to every night, and having the services that he needs to help stabilize him. And like Ken had mentioned earlier, you know, we were able to house 19 people from last year. And, you know, I think sometimes, and I'm speaking to the choir here, people don't understand some of the challenges that these people go through, and I know that's why so many of you, or all of you, are here tonight, is because you understand that, you know, and to be able to have compassionate, caring people, I see it as one of my favorite words, a foundation. You know, it's these building blocks, and continuing to help build these building blocks to help our guests stabilize at whatever that is for them, meeting them where they're at. And so these success stories are something that we hold on to, and we celebrate. We celebrate because, you know, if he would have been out in the weather, or even not even in the weather, just even on the streets much longer, it would have really been tough for him to survive. And this is because of the work that everybody does for the shelter and the volunteers. It really, truly makes a difference in so many lives. And so I just wanted to share with you a story about the difference that you're making. So thank you. Now I'd like to invite Ken back up, and let's give you all a big round of applause.
Want to do that? We would like to thank our sponsors. I think maybe this is something we should have done a little earlier, but why don't I read one and then you read one, and let you read them all? So hold your applause to the end, but as I read your name, if you're a part of this group, just raise your hand. So here are the sponsors of the Ashland Winter Shelter Program: Access, Ashland Culture of Peace, David's out there, the City of Ashland, the Ashland Police Department, the Carpenter Foundation, the First United Methodist Church, Aura, the Presbyterian Church, Rogue Valley Unitarian Universalist Fellowship, the South Mountain Friends Meeting, the Quakers. They all sit together, don't they? Temple of Mixed Shalom, Sharon's back there, yes. Havara, Trinity Episcopal Church, Uncle Food's Diner, many of us are part of that. The United Congregational Church, Church of Christ, the UCC, and all of our amazing volunteers, all of us. Everybody raise their hand who has volunteered in the shelter. Thank you, thank you. Let me comment on one last thing before we get a panel up here and tell you how the shelters operate and give you some real life experiences. When Aura got involved last year, one of the things we wanted to do is combine this nonprofit company, nonprofit organization, with the community of volunteers. And we struggled with that a little bit last year, but this year what we have done is designate a joint steering committee, which is made up of members of the community and members of Aura. And we have been meeting for about a month and a half, once a week, usually for an hour, sometimes an hour and a half, and going through a long list of things to do before the shelter can open. So I'd just like to recognize the people who are on the steering committee. Peter McBennett from Trinity Episcopal. Peter's a longtime host. You'll be hearing more from Peter in a minute, but he represents the hosts and volunteers. Heidi Parker, where's Heidi? There she is back there. Everybody knows Heidi, she represents everything. Jackie Bachman on our board and a member of handles community relations, Michelle Ariano, and myself, and Pam Lott, our administrator at Aura, who takes care of all of our paperwork. So that's the steering committee. And that's the group that if you've got a question, ask a member of that group, because they're probably involved in getting an answer to that question. So with that,
So this is hot off the press, and we are incredibly excited about this news. We have hired a winter shelter director, And after a long search and a long, uncompromising search, because we really wanted to get the right person that had the heart, the soul, the passion, the experience, and the dedication for this position. And so I'd like to introduce you to Cass Sinclair, if you want to join me up here. She has incredible experience. She accepted the position yesterday and has given notice, and she showed up tonight, so that already shows you her dedication, and her experience dials right into the winter shelter, and she's so looking forward to digging in at the end of the month, and I'm going to let her say a few words.
Thanks, Michelle. Hi, I'm Cass. I just want to thank you all for being here, and I feel so honored to be part of such an incredible group of people doing incredible things, staff and volunteers. In my experience, I do know that volunteers make the world go round, and so thank you for all you do. I'm starting on the 28th of October, and I really know from experience that moving people from crisis to stability and helping them overcome health disparities is just key to living a quality life. That's it. Thank you so much.
Yay! Woohoo! It's been quite the lengthy, 4-month process of finding this gal, so I am so excited that we have her. Now I would like to call up our spark plug board member, steering committee member, liaison to the advisory council and the winter shelter, and just an overall amazing person, Jackie Bachman.
Thank you, dear. Thank you. Hey. It's just as wonderful to look out at all of you here. And I just want to tell you that last year, I was just like the new people in the audience. I thought, well, what is this shelter about? And what's ORA? You know, is it the Oregon Restaurant Association, or what is it exactly? So I came, like you, some of you are here tonight, and now I'm on the board. I mean, watch out. It's such an honor to work with the other 3/4 or half of you that are here that have worked so hard this last year. I can't tell you, it was a difficult year, and it was a wonderful year, and it was so many things. So I can't tell you how much I appreciate everything that you volunteers have done. We're going to hear from the experts now. This is a group of people who know all about sponsoring, about listening, about food, about overnight hosts. So I'm going to call up the group. The first one is Peter McBennett from Trinity. And then we have Eileen Piker, also from Trinity. And you want to be maybe at the far end, and then you're going to move around, Peter, because we need you in a couple places. And then Bob Morse, who's going to help us with the listeners. And John Wichorek, who's going to come up and talk about overnight hosting. And I just want to say, these are such dedicated leaders of the volunteer community in our town. And I know many of you know them already, and they really are leaders in their field. We're going to start off with sponsors, with Peter and Eileen.
Okay. So can you hear me? I'm not a loudspeaker, but the microphone, yes. So they asked me to spend a little bit of time just talking about what you do as a sponsor. We're, of course, looking for 1 or 2 nights, so hopefully I can give you a good overview. We're responsible for providing overnight hosts and an evening meal and a breakfast. Trinity has sponsored 1 night for the shelter for the last 7 years at our downtown location. We have about 25 to 30 parishioners who regularly volunteer. That means providing food, serving, hosting, and cleanup. And they also do all kinds of other things in the background. But We have 2 people at Trinity that help us organize this effort, and I think that kind of is one of the keys. We have Peter organizes primarily our overnight hosts and is just general shelter coordinator extraordinaire. And Kim Blackwolf organizes our, what we call them, food angels, and our cleanup crews. Many of our volunteers have been, like you all, been doing this for a long time, and we try to pair experienced volunteers with new volunteers so they're not just out there. You know, I think in the words of Russ Oddie, who many of you know, who ran the shelter at Trinity for many years, we aim for being a no-frills shelter, and that is keep it simple. We provide a place to sleep and simple meals and a warm sort of heart and a smile, and that's very important. I think some of the benefits, you know, for us are the shelter is really one of Trinity's core local outreach ministries, and we have great support in our parish for doing it. We do this because we are called to serve those in need, and we have fun too when we do it. We have an older congregation, but many of them still make and serve food, so you can work with a group of people, a wide group of people, depending on what they want to do. Many of us have developed regular contact with the guests. It's like inviting people to your home. You know, you welcome them, you serve them a meal, you give them a place to stay. And I think the guests really, really appreciate it. So, again, I know we're looking for sponsors for other nights. If you have any questions about being a sponsor, talk to Peter and I. We'll be here. Do you want to add anything else?
The organizations that serve right now have very active churches and parishes and things. They, like the Unitarians and the Presbyterians, they allow people to park in their parking lot. If your organization is interested, but you're feeling like your organization might be overwhelmed as it is, it's not true. You can do more. You can host Wednesday nights. We only have about 100 people in our church. We have 200 committees, I think. So please see us. We want to hook you up. This is the most important thing your organization can do.
Very good.
All right, now we'll hear from Bob Morse. He's going to talk to us about being a listener.
Please join me in taking in a deep breath and letting out an audible sigh. Think of a time when someone fully listened to you. When someone fully listened to you. Or imagine a time when someone listened to you. Then silently respond to these 2 questions. What was it like to be listened to? And what was it that the person did or didn't do that left you feeling listened to? Now think of a time when you fully listened to someone, when you fully listened to someone. Or imagine a time that you did. And again in silence, respond to what was it that you did or that you didn't do? And how did that listening experience impact you? Thank you. Shelter listening basically requires 2 open ears and 1 open heart. shelter hosts say that when there are listeners in the evening, then there is less restlessness throughout the night. Thus, the nighttime is more restful. And isn't this what the purpose of providing shelter is all about? That our guests get to feel safe and to experience undisrupted, restorative sleep. Whereas the hosts put in a 12-hour shift, listeners arrive in the evening when the shelter opens and depart a couple of hours later when quiet time begins. Many of us listeners pick a night, say Sunday, and then show up each Sunday, or most Sundays, or some Sundays. In this way, we become part of the Sunday night team. Other listeners listen whenever their schedule allows and experience different teams. There is great flexibility. We may be the only listener, or we may be in the company of one or two fellow listeners. With as many as 45 guests, there's many stories to be told. You are most welcome to start out by shadowing an experienced listener, someone who can introduce you to the guests and show you the ropes. Typically, the listening gets easier and more comfortable and more fun as we get to know the guests and they get to know us. So tonight, for you, in discerning how to volunteer and how much to volunteer, please simply follow your heart. Bringing your heart to our winter homeless shelter is the biggest gift that you can offer our unhoused neighbors. Thank you.
I am going to speak to food. This is a way that people find themselves. This is how they choose to give, and this is how they choose to serve their community. And we see people come in, and we serve right away at 7:30 when we open the doors. They are cold, they are hungry, and it's the formula is going to be pretty uniform this year. We're going to be in the one space there on East Main Street, and it'll be what we serve is prepared foods that are warmed up there. And at night, some people bring breakfast foods for the morning. It is like I say, the best way some people team up and share and create a team of 3 in the kitchen, 2 people bringing food, another person helping with the dishes and with the serving. It's usually something substantive. Is that a word? Anyway, so we're looking for soup. We're looking for a large pot of soup with bread. We're looking for pans of lasagna with salad. We're looking for chili with salad. We're looking to feed 45 people. And we have formulas to create that. And it is nothing more warming, and you are never more appreciated than you are when you're serving these folks. They just love it all. So I want you to consider that. We have a sign-up sheet back there. If you have any questions about food, I'd be more than willing to answer those back there at the table. Thank you. Anything else?
Okay. Now we're going to hear from John Wichorek.
Good evening. Thank you guys for all coming out tonight. It's always neat to, this is always one of my favorite nights of the year, actually. It's strange enough because we get in a room with some of them, really, you guys wouldn't be here if you're not compassionate people. You've gotten that far. People talk and they say, oh, it takes a special person to be a shelter host. And I think it takes just someone who's in touch with their fellow human being and realizing what sleep deprivation could actually do to your psyche. That's one thing to keep in mind. It's tricky to not have good sleep hygiene, as they say in the mental health field. So that's what one of the things we do is provide a good restful night's sleep. And as a host, it's actually quite easy. It doesn't take anything that special. You show up, you open the door, and in the past we've had past years were a lot more work. The shelter volunteering has gotten easier every year. I want to stress that because there were a couple references to last year was tough. Last year was simple. The way we used to run it was chaotic. Before we became under the umbrella of ORA, the nonprofit, we ran it, open the door, sleep on the floor. If you can't keep quiet, you're out the door. Then it was a little rougher situation. Now we're in an environment with 35 to 45 people that we know. We know who we're going to be with every night. It's not scary. There's nothing to be afraid of. Often people are afraid of the unknown, and we know everybody in there. So it's not that complicated. I'm looking out here, and can I just see a show of hands? How many of you have spent the night in the shelter as a volunteer? Wow. That's what I thought. Awesome. There's a lot of people. Awesome. So, it's an amazing thing. The commitment is up to you. I mean, many of us do it once a week, but some of my best and favorite volunteers do it once or twice a month. That's all, they do it. We do it 5 months out of the year, and if they do five nights, that's incredible. The rewards you'll find out when you do it. You guys who've done it know what I'm talking about. I'm not gonna spell that out. You guys, they're somewhat personal for everybody and different. It's really simple. It's 7:30 to 7:30 is how we've been running it. You stay awake. We have an opportunity to sleep as well. It's shifted a bit because we've had fire watch at night. So there's if there's two hosts, an experienced host and or a new host, could be two experienced hosts. Never will there be two inexperienced hosts, just to emphasize that. We always have somebody who's got some experience, but the fire watch person is also kind of the security guard around the building and in the building, and so there's always somebody walking around to make sure that we're doing this safely. When I say it's easier, it's also safer than it used to be because of the known entity and the way we run it now with case management. So it's not that difficult, and all right, so glad to see this many people here. And Dan, there is incentive. I'm going to let Peter elaborate on the incentive because I'm not on the steering committee. Apparently there's volunteer incentive. So maybe pass this.
There's a volunteer incentive. There's a stipend of $50 for each evening the overnight host stays, and so it's a really nice thank you. I mean, it's not a paycheck and it's not employment, but the ORA has decided it is worth saying, here's $50 for your time for showing up. That will speak to some people, and hopefully that will collect some of you to bring you along. But mostly I know it's just because speaks to you and it's in your heart. The stipend is new, it's fun, but if you've not hosted before, on your packets on the table, it teaches you how to sign up online at the Tiny Earl. And amidst the overnight hosts, if you have never hosted before, there is a trainee slot. And I would encourage you to sign up for that trainee slot. There are 2 trainee slots. We have plenty of room. We have 4 beds for 2 overnight hosts and for 2 trainees if they end up spending the night. So At the back there, I've set up all the nights for November. I have each night laid out. And back there, thank you, Sharon, for pointing at the table. And if you come by and you want to sign up for a trainee slot, I encourage you to do it tonight. If you do it tonight, now thinking of incentives, you thought the $50 was good. I brought 4 sets of steak knives. So for the first 4 people who show up and sign up for a trainee slot, you're going to get a set of steak knives at the very least. Here, hold this for a second.
This is really exciting.
It's getting good.
Oh my gosh.
Also, if you sign up tonight as a host or a trainee, you can put your name into the jar there, and you could win possibly a 2-slice classic metal toaster from Cuisinart. So I don't know what else we need to sweeten the pot. Like I said, this should really just speak to your heart as a good humanitarian. But if you're a vegetarian, they go through tofu like nothing. They are steak knives. They are real and riveted. Thank you so much.
Let's give a nice round of applause to our panel experts. Sure. And I just want to mention at the end of our program, we do have sign-ups back here, and our experts will be back there to answer any questions if you want to ask individually. These are our current sponsors that we have. Monday night, we have the First Presbyterian Church. That's this year, coming up in November. Yay! Woohoo! That's great. Tuesday night, we actually have a sharing of sponsors. It's Temple Emek Shalom and Havara Shur Hadash. They're going to work together. So that shows you. It can be 1 sponsor, 2 sponsors. It could be a couple of, more than that. Wednesday night is open. So please, we're looking for a sponsor for Wednesday night. Thursday night, the Unitarians. Yay, Unitarians. Friday night, we had the United Congregational UCC Church. Yay, Friday. And Saturday night, we have Trinity Episcopal. Yay. And Sunday night, it looks like we have the Quakers who are looking, the Friends, Mountain Friends, and they're looking for a partner. Is that right? So we'd love to have a partner to work with them. Yay, the Friends. Excellent. Okay. So now I'm going to turn the mic over to Michelle, I believe. Michelle and Ken.
Michelle, what are we going to do?
We have scripts.
Oh, we have a script. You can take the first 2, I'll take the last one.
So, it's hard to recognize people when they have done so much for the organization. There's really no words for the depth of the volunteers that we are going to recognize tonight that don't necessarily know we're going to recognize them tonight. So let's all hope they come on stage. So the first person that we would like to recognize is, we call her the mother of the shelter. She has worked tirelessly to advocate over the past 8 to 10 years, leading and organizing the expansion of the shelter to best serve the unhoused. Her coordination, collaboration, passion, and leadership has made it possible for our current shelter to be serving 45 guests in one location for the entire season. She provides a powerful presence and a foundation, and gives at a level that I don't think I've ever quite experienced. We like to call Heidi Parker up on stage. Woo! I heard if we told her we were going to recognize her that she might not show up. If you want to say it.
I just want to thank everyone for all the years of service that you've provided to the most vulnerable members of our community, and they really are members of this community. Many of them grew up here, became homeless first here, and hope to find homes here so that they can continue to be here. And it could not have happened all these years had it not been for the incredible compassion of this community. So it takes a village to open a shelter, and it has evolved over the years. It's just gotten better and better. We're being more successful at transitioning people out of homelessness into transitional homes and off the street. So I really thank Aura for making this possible, because it was a bigger job than I or any of us could do just as volunteers for so many years. So I'm really grateful to everyone here and all the people who aren't here who've been part of this for many years. Thank you.
Please stay to recognize the next person. Another person that we want to recognize. This person wanted to help so much, and she realized she wanted to be helpful whenever the help was needed, that she kept a special bag packed every night in case she was needed, right by her door. Even if there was a bridge game going on in her house, she was there to, if we called her, we need you to come. And this is Joan Calvilage. Joan, please come on up. Where's Joan? There she is. Are you going to give her those flowers?
I just want to say that Joan was a lifesaver last year. Whenever there was a night that was not covered with two hosts, she would jump in her car or bike and come down, and it was amazing. She really allowed the shelters to continue last year through her incredible dedication. Thank you.
Well, many people did the same, but one thing about sort of being a substitute host is I saw all the different sites, and it was really extraordinary to see a completely different sense of this community and all the interweaving of hospitality. So thanks to all of you, and many people aren't even here tonight.
Thank you, Joan. If you want to know what it's like to be a host, ask Joan. She has, or John, or any of the people here, but Joan has done an outstanding job. We have one more special recognition, and this is for a lady who has been a host for many years. She was right here in this room every Tuesday night, almost all last shelter season. She has started in 2013 and been a host. She's smiling back there and saying, "Who set me up for this?" And she's looking at making a life change and moving, but it hasn't happened yet. So she came and said, "You know, I haven't moved yet, so I can help this year if you really need me." But Sharon Harris, would you come up here and... Yeah, I want to say one more word about Sharon. Sharon held down Tuesday night, the Tuesday night spot for Temple of Mixed Shalom representative for, since 2013, your first year? Huh? 2011, your first year. And Sharon came on the Aura board in 2015 or 16 and was the past president of Aura. And last year, she designed our new website. So who was Peter that said we got 100 people with 200 committees? Well, that's Sharon. She's one person with 4 or 5 committees. Sharon?
There you go.
I just want to say that the year we had 3 nights of shelter a week. John Chorek said, "I know we can do another night. We can convince the city to let us have Pioneer Hall for another night." And I said, "John, where are we going to get the hosts?" And out of nowhere came Sharon on her bike And everybody said, she's young. She's not great. How can she host? She's still young, and she was the most spectacular host. She knows the name of every homeless person in the shelter, and she is awesome. And we are grateful to have had her for so many years.
Heck yeah, I want to say something. First of all, no chili, okay? Are you people crazy? For obvious reasons. I just want to say we were really lucky to have Methodist Church offer this space last year, and I slept over in that corner where he was standing right now, and John alluded to this thing. He's like, you think you're giving? You're receiving so much. I would sit there out of sleep and sit every night with these people around me, slumbering, really feeling safe, knowing that they were indoors and they had something to eat. And it is the most beautiful feeling ever to just sit there knowing that because you're there, they can be here inside. So I just want to thank all the people who've been doing it for all these years and getting us to the place where we're at. 7 nights a week in one space. It is just getting easier and easier to do this. And a couple of words of encouragement. If any of you haven't hosted and you're thinking of hosting, or you haven't hosted with either Peter or John, I would pay money to host with these guys. It's a fun night. It's hilarious. It's a really good group of people, and you're so supported. As John was saying, you know, we have the listeners, and and Bob said, it makes it so much easier, and it's such a wonderful experience. There's nothing to be afraid of at all. And I would encourage you, I did a little count in the back with Heidi of the sign-up sheet. If everyone here volunteers one night a month, we've got the season covered. So, just one night. Thanks.
So we'd like to get a picture of our amazing volunteers together, and maybe they can be sandwiched between we'll get with Jackie and Ken. Yeah, that'd be. No, I'm good. Thank you. And let's give these beautiful ladies another round of applause. Thank you. So now is the time to get into a little bit of the details about the sign-up process. And so I'd like to call up our amazing new administrator, Teora, who is helping organize all of us and has just been a savior for me, Pam Lott, and Heidi Parker, who, as you know, is just a phenomenal person all the way around. So I'll turn it over to them to go over the sign-up process and logistics. Thank you.
Thank you. So great to see all of you here. We're trying to build off of how it's been in the past with the Google Sheets that you sign up with online with the tiny URL. You'll notice there's a new URL. It's on the yellow form that's on the table. And there's also a sample of what the pages look like. There's one per table, just to give you some familiarity, that's a good word, with what the pages look like. It's a little closer, that better? Okay. And essentially, it's just a big spreadsheet, and you just scroll down to the day you're interested in. You pick the column that you're interested in doing, whether it's an overnight host or a listener or some of the other helpers, and then you put in your name and your contact information, your email and your phone number, and then we go from there. What else do I need to? You want to elaborate on the process? About the background checks and whatnot?
Background checks or the sign-in?
Both.
Okay. So the sign-in can feel intimidating if you're not comfortable signing up online using a Google Doc. My son helped helped us set this up probably 10 years ago. And over the years, as people get more familiar with it, it's been easier and easier. However, if you have trouble signing up by computer, you are still able to sign up for the shelters. And the way you would do that is to call Pam at the Resource Center, and the number is on the sheet. Or you can call or get together with anybody that's at the shelter that's a host, and they can help guide you through the process of signing up. So there's really no reason not to sign up. And I have a number of people who've called me over the years and said, I can't make sense of this. Would you just sign me up for such and such a date? And so we can do that too. We also require that all overnight hosts have a background check. And that's more intimidating than it really is, because it's pretty easy. To get a background check, you go down to the Ashland Police Department, and the address for that is 1155 East Main Street. You go into the police office, and at the desk you tell them that you're there for a background check for the winter shelters. There's no charge to us, thanks to the City of Ashland and the police department, who's been very generous with us on this. They've covered the cost for many, many years. You bring a photo ID with you, and you need to know your Social Security number. They give you a form to fill out, and then they take you back into the office, and they do a computerized background check. And if everyone passes, I think in all the years of doing this, we've had maybe one person who didn't. But what they're looking for, the things that disqualify people, would be if you've had a conviction of a felony in the last 7 years, if you've had a conviction for a misdemeanor in the last 3 years, or if you're the subject of a pending misdemeanor or felony violation investigation. I think I've said this before at other orientations. The police department secretary told me there's not a cleaner bunch in Ashland than people that volunteer for the shelters. So they don't do fingerprints anymore. They feel that a computerized background check is good enough. It's done every 2 years. It's fast, it's easy. They prefer that you not come on Tuesday. That's the only restriction. Tuesday mornings. If you ever plan to host or help out at an emergency shelter, then the emergency shelters happen very quickly. When the temperature is 20 or below, the city has contracted with Aura to open an emergency shelter. And when that happens, we only have about 24 hours of notice or less. So if you anticipate that you would volunteer for an emergency shelter, you need to get your background check done now, because it's often not possible to get it at the drop of a hat.
So I don't have any giveaway knives or anything, but there is a bonus. If you're intimidated by the computer, we can sign you up here tonight. So at the end of the evening, we have next to the toaster, right? So if you're interested in signing up for any of the volunteer positions, particularly though we need the overnight host, but we can help you out tonight, and we'll even have one computer set up. So see us at the back at the end. Okay? Thank you. Oops, I'm going to do this way.
Thank you. So Ken and I are here to close it out. Thank you. You have all been absolutely amazing and patient and kind, and it's just an incredible group of people. I was awed to see how many hands went up when the question was asked, how many people stay the night as hosts. Really honored to work with such an amazing group of people. We have, of course, Peter and his knives back there for the hosts, if you'd like to sign up. We also have Bob Morse back there for the listeners. There he is. And what a special soul you are, Mr. Bob Morse. Thank you for all you do. Yes, he is a special soul. And then we have food sign up back there, which I believe Heidi and Pam are going to help with that. There are volunteer cards. So if this is your first time, please fill it out if you're interested. There's a box in the back that you can drop them off. And please take cookies with you. There's lots of cookies. And I'll let Ken say his goodbyes. Thank you, everybody, so much.
I'd just like to say three things. I'd like to say three things. First of all, if you haven't met Cass, come on up and say hello to our new shelter director, Cass. She will know all of your names within a day or two. So thank you. Thank you, Cass, for being here tonight. And the second thing I wanted to say, Michelle, I don't know where we stand on an orientation for shelters. Are we still talking about that? So there's an orientation for new shelter hosts, which the 29th at the new one location shelter center on 2082 East Main. So if you'd like to be a host and you haven't been a host before, or you'd just like to come and see the shelter, the 29th at 5:30. And then the third thing I want to say is thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for this season that's about to come. Give yourself a round of applause. Thank you.